We're here with Dakota Gwen. I'm Pastor Trevor, and this is Epic Convos. Well, man, thank you for joining us here today. Dakota, go ahead and tell us about yourself a little bit, man.
I'm going to be a senior this year. I'm going to graduate in 2024. I manage cross country, and I do swim, and I might go out for track this year. I don't know. I play in the worship band. I play the drums, and I also play the guitar a little bit.
Manage cross country? You don't run cross country. You manage cross country.
I ran cross country my sophomore year. It's not my thing.
But you're like, I will help other people run.
I realize the amount of work they put in. I love the coaches, and I love the kids there. So I just like, I'm fine doing managing.
You ever get like the big signs and like you can do it?
No, I usually have the clipboard and I'm taking their times. Sometimes I miss their times because I'm yelling though, so I'm cheering.
That's good coaching right there.
Yeah, it is.
Good coaching right there. Well, dude, hey, I want to ask you a few things. You gave us some points you wanted to talk about a little bit.
Yes.
I want to make sure we get to that. So, man, what brings you on here today? When we brought up the idea of doing this, you were like, I have 10 things or whatever it is I want to talk about, but let's hit a couple of them here.
I'll go with the first one. I think was my biggest Jesus moment.
Okay.
When I think I took a different perspective on him, how he works in my life at least. So every year since my freshman year, I've been a camp counselor for our elementary school students, and it was that first year that they had. When I was there, the final night was the acceptance night.
Okay.
And so, they kind of briefed us that morning, all the leaders. They asked us, just be cool with it. Like, some of the kids aren't going to know what they're doing, kind of. They'll be confused. I was kind of expecting, because I was only a freshman, I was kind of expecting my co-counselor to, do most of the stuff. Because he was older, he was an adult. And I expected him to kind of take charge of that. And so when I was sitting there, I noticed it was actually my own brother. He was kind of confused, and he was kind of going back and forth between different pastors and his leaders. He was not in my cabin. But I went over and I talked to him, and I was like, hey, what's going on, man? And he was like, well, I don't really know what to do. And I was like, I basically explained to him why not,
Yeah.
I was like, you see me, I'm here. You see all these other leaders here. If it's really so bad, why would everybody be here?
Okay.
And he was kind of thought of it a little bit, and he was like, that's a good point. And then I asked him, I was like, well, do you think you want to accept him into your heart? And then he was like, yeah, I think I will. And so in that moment, they had taught us a very simple method. It was the ABCs of Christ. But I wasn't super confident because I had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, the first thing I told him was, do you want me to go get Emily, which was the children's youth pastor?
Not a bad call. Not a bad call.
In my mind, I was like, I wouldn't want to do it with some random high schooler. If I was a kid, I was thinking this is too important. But he did not want to do it with Emily. And he said no. And then he kind of scrunched back up, and I was
We love you, Emily.
He was not scared of Emily, but what was powerful is he didn't want to do it with anyone else. He didn't want to do it with his leaders, and he didn't want to do it with his pastor. He wanted to do it with me.
Cool.
Which was hard for me because I was thinking the whole time, I was like, I shouldn't be the one to do this for you, It should be one of your leaders or your pastor, someone who knows what they're talking about, I thought. But I think God put me in that position, not only to show me, but my brother as well, that you don't have to be a pastor to have a powerful impact with your words. Absolutely. Right? And your actions. My mom always tells me, no matter what you say or do, your brother is always watching you because he's looking up to you, and everything you do is automatically cool.
Oh, there you go.
And most of the time I'm like, yeah, whatever. But it was really powerful for me, and I was like, I really didn't expect it to happen, So that was probably the big moment for me, and I was like, I have to take this a little more serious, right? I'm not just somebody walking with everybody else, like God really does have a plan, and he puts things in place. So yeah.
So your brother accepted Christ that day?
He did with me.
That's really cool.
Which is weird to say. Which is weird, really weird to say.
I don't know a lot of people who like their sibling is the one that walked them, through that kind of conversation. I think that's awesome. Dude, thank you for sharing that with us. So then that was like a spark for you. That kind of led you to more things. So what has that led you to? From there, where have you gone, man?
I think from that moment, because when I got into high school, it was after COVID. So I was still kind of like branching out. I was looking for things to do, like clubs. Like I had joined a bunch of clubs my freshman year. And I was really looking for like, how does God want me to work in his kingdom? And I was thinking more of like, how do I better myself in Christ? But then I think after that moment, I realized that God wants me to help better others.
That's cool. And in a way that you also bettering yourself.
Yes.
So.
It goes together, really.
Absolutely.
I think the most simple example that I could use outside of the church, I was giving a kid drum lessons.
Cool.
Right? He had never played the drums in his life. And he was much worse than I was, respectfully. But I found myself, like, when I would go and teach him, and I would come home, and I would actually, like, go online and look up, like, harder stuff for myself.
Right.
Because I was, like, being challenged, because I'm trying to teach him the best I can. And then I look back on myself, and I'm like, what can I do to do better, too? If I'm telling them this, I need to be able to do that myself. And so I think the same property applies to being a Christian,
Absolutely.
By helping others, I can see how I can help myself as well. It's kind of steered most of my actions, how I work through Christ. I feel like some people, maybe they're good singers but I feel like for me, it's really been helping others.
Yeah.
Has been how God has taken me.
Well, man, speaking of helping others, I know one of the things you've done in your life is you've gone on a mission trip.
I have.
And I know that was a super cool experience for you. Well, I don't know a ton about it, but I'm assuming it was
That's cool.
a very interesting experience for you. So I'm about to learn about it. So I would love for you to tell me about the mission trip. Tell me what stuck out to you from it. Share those things that you're like, I have to share this about the trip.
I could probably fill the whole thing with the missions trip.
I thought you might.
But I'll try and overview it real quick because it was amazing. And I would tell anybody I meet, if you've never gone on one, go to one. If you get the chance, say yes. Okay. Even if it's inconvenient. Because you will never experience something outside of the U.S. like that. Because America is one of the best countries in the world. Everybody says it, but it's so true. You don't realize how good we have it in America until you leave.
Gotcha.
Like they tell you like to keep your mouth closed when you take a shower because else you're going to get sick from the water. Oh. Like you don't have to worry about that in America. Like it's just little things. It's just different.
That's perspective already right there, man.
Yes. You don't think about it. It's like, I guess I open my mouth when I'm taking a shower, but it's little things like that, you only drink bottled water and stuff because the water is bad. So I had met with a church there. And
so where'd you go?
The Dominican Republic.
Okay.
It was called Punta Cana. That's the big city that we stayed at. And we would go to a smaller town kind of on the edge of Punta Cana because if you know anything about Punta Cana, it's very touristy. Okay. Big resorts, really nice beaches. But I'd say no more than a 6-minute drive away. It was probably the worst living conditions I've ever seen in my life. It was a town that they called Monteverde, and it was terrible. There was literally trash everywhere, like piles of trash. And, there was, like, kids running around with no clothes on, and there was adults in the middle of the day, like, not working even, just unemployed adults just sitting around, and their houses were made of sheet metal and trash, anything they could find to put together. And they were sleeping on the floor, like the dirt. So it was really bad. I think what was really powerful was inside Monteverde, they had started a church. So this church is pretty small, but they had probably 50 little kids running around in there. And what was really cool is, and it has to be this way, and I'll explain that after, but every single worker there is volunteer. They did not get paid. And the church actually doubled as a school as well. And so in the Dominican Republic, for a kid to go to school, they have to be legal residents of the Dominican Republic. And a lot of kids are coming from Haiti, or they're children of prostitute parents, and so they don't have proper documents.
Dang.
It's like, yeah, it's hard.
That's tough.
So a lot of these kids, their life is almost what would you call it? Secluded,
Yeah.
contained, just to Monteverde. There is almost no possible way for them to get out because they don't have documents, so they can't get a job and they can't go to school. It's hard. Most of them, they say like the most predictable path for a Dominican man is once they turn 18, they go to jail. That's their profession, really. Like, that's just how it is. To see what I was told by some of the guys there who lived there, they said, unless you get an education, you're going to go to jail because you're going to end up doing drugs or get involved with a gang, and you're going to go to jail. And that's probably where you'll stay.
So what was the work you guys were doing there?
Because we were helping out a school there. So this was a school that their whole entire mission was to provide the kids in the Dominican a free education and give them the best level of education possible. Their school is really cool. It's completely faith-based, completely. And we talked to a handful of the teachers there, and I'm very impressed because they could all speak English too.
Okay.
And they tried their best to speak English to us. But they were all strong Christians. And they were all telling me their faith stories and how they ended up getting there. Like, some of them were from, like, Brazil or something. And they heard about the school, and they asked. The cool thing was every single teacher there was not asked to apply. They all asked the school to apply.
They could work there.
Yes, they all asked the school if they could work there.
Wow.
Which is I feel like is a big statement.
Absolutely.
To the mission that they're trying to do down there. But we helped pack meals for kids in Monteverde, and we helped. We like built a fence and like painted it and stuff for the school. We didn't do like a whole lot of community work, but we did, and which is really cool. Is we bought a lot of toys for the kids in Monteverde.
Cool.
And so we actually went over the suitcase like weight limit of like 50 pounds because we had so many toys stuffed in our suitcase. So we had to distribute them. We got them all there, and it was so much fun.
Oh, I bet the look on their face was just amazing, right?
Oh, it was crazy. And the craziest thing is they just swarm you. Like, respectfully, like animals. Like, it was just like uncontrolled. They would just grab at you and they would jump on you. They grab the toys. And it was the sad thing is the kids in Monteverde, they would come and they would take like a soccer ball from you, right? And then you'd be like, all right, let's play some soccer or whatever. But they would actually run back to their house and they would stash it, and then they would come back and try and get more because they just don't have anything.
Yeah,
so it's like, yeah, everything they can get, they try. I mean, some of these kids, they probably hadn't had food in a week.
That's terrible.
It was really cool. They tell us that when the kids find out that the missionaries are coming, that the kids actually don't sleep the nights before because they're so excited. They're like jumping up and down. You know, it's like Santa. It's like Santa coming to the Dominican. But it's really cool. And for these kids that can't go to the bigger school, that small church with volunteer workers is what really gets the kids out of there. Yeah. Because when they get an education and they can learn English, they can get a job. For a lot of these kids, making a life is working at the resorts there. So a lot of the people at the resort we were staying at, that was like their dream job. Like that's the high end level job that they can get. Something really small, but that was powerful. My friend Colin Compton, he was with me as well, and so was Luke Campagna. We all went together. But we were walking in to eat breakfast or something, and we had our mission trip shirts on. It just said serve on it. And one of the guys there, he pulled us aside and he was like, "Hey, are you missionaries?" And we were
Yes.
yeah. And then he spread his arms out and he gave us the biggest hugs.
Awesome.
And he didn't say much after that. He's just like, "Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. But we were talking about it, and we're like, this guy was probably brought out of the slums from people like us. He explained it to us. Some of the other families that went with us actually did it. They told us that sponsoring a child in the Dominican or any other country that lacks resources is the best thing you can do for them. Nothing else compares to how much it helps them, because it gives them money to go to school, to buy food, to get toiletries. It's so beneficial. Our main guide, his name was Woodland. He was from the Dominican, actually. His mom is Haitian and his dad is Dominican, I think. And he was born in Monteverde. So he was like a living example of the success that their education system that they set up works. Yeah. And he's actually like the head coordinator between the U.S. and the Dominican as the Dominican representative.
Wow.
And so he was super cool. And yeah, he would tell us all about it.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like the experience itself, and then just what you gain from it, what you learn from it, what you're able to actually do, and go be Jesus for people. And some of it, like, it's super exciting because you're like, no, they're super excited to see you, and this and this and this, and then it's also like super sad because
yes,
they're super excited to see you, and they want this and this and this, and it's like that's a crazy array of emotions while you're there. I mean, that had to be really rewarding at times. That'd be really tough at times.
It was. My friend Luke, he made a friend, and they actually said at the school they called him Ears because he had big ears. But he was super cute, and my friend Luke, he's a pretty monotone dude. But I could tell he was really sad when we had to leave because this kid has to stay in these conditions, and the hardest thing, and I think we all felt it, was if you live in America, you can do anything you want. If you want to be an astronaut, if you want to be the CEO of the next big car company, like if you put your mind to it and you work, America has the resources to do it. But all the kids we saw in Monteverde, that is their life. Yeah. Their path might not go further than that. Where in America, you can choose any path you want. It shows how blessed we are. We really win the birth lottery by living in America.
But man, this mission trip story has been incredible. Can you share a little bit of how God, I mean, you've already have a little bit, honestly, but can you share a little bit more specifics of how God worked in your life through the trip, and then honestly just what God's been moving in your life and really what led you to where you are today?
So I think the biggest way that the missions trip has affected me is how I view everyday life, because I feel like sometimes you'll have little moments that affect how I think of Christianity entirely. But I think for such a big thing, it's honestly affected me on a smaller scale on the daily and how I view like the world. Because after then, I find myself more often not praising God through like worship or like reading my Bible, but just appreciating what I have and what he's given me, the opportunities that are there for me. Because I know the Lord is going to open doors for me, and I have the ability to take them.
Focus on worshiping God when you're listening to worship music, or you're out there with guitar and you're drumming and you're doing it then, or when you're deep in a Bible study and you're talking about something specific. It's really easy to get it then, but you're talking about this trip having really that everyday impact, where you don't have to be doing one of these acts. You're just living and praising God.
Yes.
And looking at the opportunities around you and saying, man, I've been so blessed that maybe I didn't realize before. That so many people don't realize how blessed they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to live in praise.
Yeah.
Dude, I think that's incredible. One of the things I know you've been into that I'm super proud of you for, and I want to hear more about, is the high school small group that you take part in. So tell me a little bit about that. What happens? Where it's at? How people can be a part of it.
This is one of my favorite things. So the Wawasee High School Bible Study, I'll tell you, is completely student run. Never has a teacher told us, like, this is what we're going to do next week. Like, it's always been the student leaders that help set it up, governing basically what happens.
Yeah.
Like, where we're going to meet, what time, what day. We do ask the principal every year, hey, is it still okay that we meet in the morning? And then he says yes. So it was my freshman year, and it was really cool, actually. They had just started it, and I went in one morning, and I had no idea what to expect. And they did it on Wednesdays still because the teachers had meetings that morning. And after I left that night, I had Epic, and I went to my youth pastor at the time. It was JJ. I went into his office, and I was like, dude, I've never seen God in the school like that, like just in normal life, because before then, because that was my freshman year. Because before then, I really experienced God solely in church, or when we went on a trip together, like a conference. That was the first time I was with my friends and even other people who I didn't know, and we were all talking about the Bible together. Awesome. It was super cool. And surprisingly, they asked me, they were like, hey, you said some really good things. We want you to be a leader for the Bible study. And I was like, oh, okay.
What are your thoughts on that? Were you taken back? What happened, man?
I was super happy.
Okay, you're like, yes.
Because I think one of the gifts God's given me is a voice that people listen to.
Okay.
Even though I don't like that, I think I would rather be behind the scenes, up on the stage. I'm not talking to people. I'm still working through God. So sometimes it surprises me. People, I think, listen to me. They take my word, which is something I'm thankful for, but I also don't like it.
The things you mentioned before we started this was being bold in your faith and really in your life. So, I mean, you've already hit that a little bit, but what does that mean to you?
Okay, so, and my best example goes right along with the Bible study. This is one of the big ideas that we have in the Bible study is being bold in your faith. We've made it a goal to do what's called Jesus jumping at the school. Some mornings we'll decide to get together and we'll go and we'll wait by the doors by where the buses come in or where they come in from their cars, and then we'll pull them aside and we'll be like, yo, what's up? Can I pray for you today?
Like, do people say, sure, like, yeah, or?
So basically everything you just said.
Okay.
A full range of responses. And we've actually had some people have quite negative responses to them asking. And I feel really bad because I have not had a negative response, but I know other people have. I've gotten people who've actually in turn prayed for me because they felt so touched by me praying for them because they thought, nobody looks at me. Nobody's going to care what I do, how I do it. So we often tell them, maybe go for the kid that's walking into school with his hood up. Maybe he's tired, maybe he's sad. You never know. So if you pray for their day, that can change their whole mood.
Oh, absolutely.
I've seen it happen too.
That's awesome.
Because you pull them aside and you ask them, hey, can I pray for you? And they go, really? Really, you want to pray for me? And I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. They'll walk in with their head down, and they'll walk away with a smile. Because what really is happening is you're spreading the word of God, and you're being a disciple, and through him, and you're spreading love through the love of Jesus. But what it's also challenging is your own heart.
Oh, because it's not the easiest thing
No.
to be like, okay, here comes this person, let's do it.
No, it's not easy. And I think there's probably only one guy that enjoys doing it, Isaac Winters.
Okay.
Who's super extroverted. But it's tough for everybody. And I think it's never not going to be tough because it's always a stretch on your own heart.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you guys get better at it.
Yeah, yeah. We tell them, like, feeling brave. If you don't want to talk to any students, maybe hit up a friend or a teacher. I've gotten good responses from teachers a couple of times too. It's cool to see them, the change. It's almost instant. It's like giving somebody a coffee in the morning, but you're just speaking the Holy Spirit. So I think it's really important that people are bold in their faith, and they're not afraid to talk to people about God who don't believe in God, because I think that's really our main goal here. And I think that's what God has called me to do as well. In the Dominican, those kids, they've probably never heard of Jesus, and I'm the only representation of him. So just being loving is the most I can do for them. And the same in the school. If somebody's having a bad day, just being loving and kind and supportive is really all I can do for them. But in a weird way, it's the best thing.
Walk like Jesus, talk like Jesus, be loving. Love God and love his people.
Yeah, I think that's really the key to it.
But dude, you've hit some amazing things today. You've hit killing quiet Christians. There's been Jesus jumping. There's been being bold in your faith. And then just even the simplicity of the last thing you said there, just be loving. Mm-hmm. Just be loving, and the biggest way you can be loving is honestly telling people about Jesus. And you guys are doing such an amazing job with that.
This is Dakota Gwen, and this is Epic Convos.